Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I want to welcome you to this brand new 2026 year of our amazing show, in which we are actually delving into our third year of our third season, third year of doing the show. And we're so glad to have you listening to our podcast as we are continuing to do an amazing array of different types of films this year, of which this is being included, which is one of our special topics for this month, which is foreign language films or foreign films. It does not matter, but we wanted to give a little spotlight on films that are made out of the US to give an idea of what other types of filmmakers are actually producing or have produced in the history of film. That being said, we have an amazing lineup of foreign language films and foreign films for you this month. So we hope that after this podcast that you listen to today, that you would check out some of the other amazing films that we've done. Also, we have done a lot of foreign films in our previous episodes, so please check those out as well. I guess I better tell you what the movie is we're talking about. So we are talking about the movie The Kingdom from 1994 and director Lars von Trier. And to kind of get us started with this conversation, I brought on my one of my favorite guests on the show, which is
Woo!
Dave Watkins. Thank you, Dave, for joining us.
Yeah, man. Um, yeah, this is not technically a movie. It's, I guess, technically a mini series. But though these first four episodes were originally they were played in the movie theater,
No.
like after it aired on TV.
Yes, yeah. Which is how I kind of and if you've been listening to our program, you realize we don't normally do television shows on this program. We might do a mini series or a television or made for TV movie, but we don't normally do any type of limited series or something like that. But we're trying to take this one a little bit differently, and this is the first time we've ever done this. Mostly because Lars von Trier is known for doing mostly a lot of risque and crazy films, but this was one of the rare opportunities where he delved into television for this Denmark Swedish production.
And horror. I mean, has he done any other horror movies other than this?
It depends on what you look at. You know, a lot of his movies are considered horror films in certain circles. It's kind of like David Cronenberg. Sometimes people don't consider his movies horror films, yet a lot of the horror community always attributes all of his movies in the horror genre. I think that's how his films are treated a lot. I think
Well,
I
David Cronenberg for sure, though. Like a lot of his films have horror aspects, especially body horror. That seems to be his favorite thing to do. There's a little bit of body horror in this, but not a lot.
yeah. This is a haunted hospital type of thing, and but there's very little horror aspects except for in this first part, the severed head probably.
Well, there's a lot of ghost in this. I mean, I think when you have a ghost, it does kind of lend its weight towards a horror aspect.
And this will be interesting because for some people actually were able to watch the original part one as the first four episodes when it was originally aired. Some of us saw this as a two-part film series when it became popular and then was given a limited theatrical release, sort of like what happened with the original Toby Hooper Salem's Lot, which was originally a TV miniseries. The thing got its theatrical release. That's one of the reasons why we're taking the opportunity to do this. And for everyone who's listening and they enjoyed this episode on part one, we will be doing a episode on part two and more part three slash Exodus. I think it's called Exodus. I haven't actually seen the third one yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so we're gonna
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, we're gonna highlight each one of those in a future episode. So please be aware of that. But we want to hope, well, what we hope is that you will enjoy this one enough to go seek this film out slash series if you haven't seen it, and or check out the other versions, part two in Exodus as well, because I think it's an amazing series that's been talked about a lot in this filmmaker's career, and so we're going to highlight it. So Dave, what did you have to say real quick?
Yeah, yeah. So I was just going to point out, for those who are familiar with it, they probably like, a lot of people only think part one. They think part one is the first two episodes and part two is the second two episodes.
Yes.
But there's actually that was from 1994, and most of the time, most people didn't realize there was a second series made in 1997 that consisted of another four episodes that followed up what happens in the first four episodes. And then after that, unfortunately, two of the main actors died in
Mm.
between it. They wanted to go into do a third series, but they couldn't do it, or they didn't have the heart to do it because the main two actors died in between series. And then, so then in 2022, that's when the third series came out, which it does incorporate some of the surviving actors who are still alive. So that's they did a very interesting job with that third series, especially. But I just wanted to point that out because I have talked with some people who were very confused about part two actually being the second part of part one.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you on that one. Even I thought like that for a long time. Uh, Mostly because I remember when they did a special screening here in Georgia at one of my favorite theaters, Midtown Art Cinema, where they screened part one and part two, long time ago, mind you. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah, either that or since I kind of I saw a lot of movies at Midtown Art Cinema and at Cinefest in Georgia State at the exact same time,
Yeah.
so I could be getting confused. But
Yeah. But it was probably like I think that probably happened in probably 98 or 99
that's
is what I'm
something. Yeah.
thinking. Because like that was when they were doing the second series. Now this is a Danish series and it is subtitled.
Hmm.
So a lot of times when they especially back then, even now when they shoot things in other countries, we may not see that for several years.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of hard to get sometimes, especially if it doesn't get this type of release. Like this one got a pretty wide release when it first came out for a Danish film.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the thing is, I had read about this before actually ever seeing it. And this was by far the first film I'd ever seen from the directors, Trier. After that, I became well known with a lot of his other works that he had done afterwards. But this was like my stepping stone to his work and what he crafted.
But
And
yeah,
it's always
yeah.
nice to see him at the very end of each one of these episodes because then I got to know who he was and what he looked like as well.
It's such a bizarre thing when he pops out and starts talking. It's like,
It is
it's,
bizarre, but you get
yeah,
to know who the actual director is based on
yeah.
that alone.
Right, right. But sometimes it's kind of like, especially after the cliffhangers, and he pops out and he just like says some stuff. It's kind of like, dude, you're about to punch you in the face. It's-
Uh,
but no, it's kind of I get it though. It's cool that you get to see him, and it actually plays very interesting when you watch that third part. It's very interesting what they do with that part of it. But I was gonna point out about the director, which I haven't seen any of his other movies except for one of the movies, but he did create a style called, I think you pronounce it Dog Me
no,
from 1995. Is it
Dogma
Dog?
95.
Yeah. So that was a year after this was made. So I think this was very influential that kind
Yes,
of started that because if there's some aspects of this that have that type of style in it, which
yes.
is handheld camera movement, which happens natural light for the most part. You don't see a lot of this isn't lit lit with lights. Like a lot of it's like kind of lit in a. Even when I was watching it back in the day, I was like, wow, they didn't really light this that much. Just natural light, and but they do have music in this, unlike most of the Dogma. Is that?
Dogma 95.
Yeah,
Huge
yeah,
film move. I know a lot of people listening to this probably don't remember that huge
yeah,
filmmaker movement.
yeah.
And there, just a little background. Yes, he was one of the filmmakers who created, helped craft the rules for it. But then again, he broke some of the rules himself while making his own movies. So, uh,
Right. But they're
and
trying to get away from like the which I really love this idea because they were trying to get away from the Hollywood like big budget just stuff, and they're just like, let's just bring this back to the basics and make it simpler in some ways. Even though this series does incorporate special effects, but especially practical special effects and some digital as well. I don't. It's not huge digital, but most of it's just optical, like fades and stuff like that, that make the ghosts look transparent.
Mhm. Yeah. So uh that's it's actually really cool as you mentioned that because I could keep forgetting about the Dogma 95 style. Uh
Yeah.
so filmmaker, this does have a lot of those type of aspects as you just mentioned of that style that became really famous for a short amount of time, unfortunately. It's now more or less been scrapped or forgotten by most filmmakers, but there are still some great ideals that were created from that, and you see a lot of those in this series. Now that I know that I need to rewatch the part two and see if he actually used any of them in Exodus, the third part. It'd be curious to
Well,
see.
yeah, it does, it
Oh,
does.
it does? Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. You'll see when you get there, but it starts out not that way, but then it kind of gets into it. It doesn't go as big with it. It doesn't like go like, but it does kind of embrace it. But here though. it kind of does it in a better way. It looks better, but here they intentionally make it look very film grainy. Like when you watch it, some of it's like so severe. You see a lot of film grain shot on 16 millimeter film.
Hmm.
It's like kind of they took a lot of the color out of it. It's almost like a sepia kind of tone going on with it. But
And
it's yeah. Go ahead.
I was about to say, who was the company that made the new release of this? By the way, you have it up in front of you.
Yeah, well, I don't know the company that made it. The company that produced the DV, I mean the Blu-ray was Mubai, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah.
I don't know if they produced it though.
There are notes in the material saying how much they wanted to retain the original look that was intended by Lars von Trier for the redone, which they had to go through with the original elements and completely do a different color grading and
Yeah.
redo the entire audio track. Thankfully, they had all of the actual elements to be able to do that for this first part, and make it look like it was originally intended to look, because the elements the elements for the VHS version, I'm assuming, were not up to snuff. So thankfully they had the original elements because it was 16 millimeter. So
Yeah, yeah. And consider, I mean, it does look good considering it, even though it's supposed to look bad, but it does look good as far as like the detail levels and the contrast, the black levels, and the parts that look bad on purpose. And there is a lot of handheld stuff. Most of it shot handheld. There's a lot of walking down the hall scenes. Um, Before we I guess, dive into the bigger plot of this thing, I do want to point out two other things about this is heavily influenced by one of my favorite shows, Twin Peaks, and that and he even admits that as well. But if you watch, it does have more supernatural stuff in this than Twin Peaks has in it, at least for the first part of it. Um, but the way the episodes are structured, even in Twin Peaks, almost every episode starts at the beginning of the day, and then it goes through one day, and then the next episode's another day, and they do that pretty good for the first at least four episodes here, if not longer, into the series. But it's that's kind of a cool thing. It kind of later on with the show 24, they did a whole day, but they did an hour for each episode. But it's got I do like that idea of it. It may I like the idea of it each episode covering a different day, and then another show that it's a lot like, because this does take place in a hospital, is ER, which I did watch the first 10 maybe 11 seasons of that. But ER did start the same year this was made. So it didn't copy ER. It was being made at the same time, but it has a very similar type of feel to it, because even ER does that too. Most episodes take place during the day, and I like the feel of ER. When if you watch, especially the pilot episode and a lot of the earlier episodes, just watching them go through different parts of the hospital, it's just the urgency of what's going on, and it kind of does that a little bit on this show too.
yeah, yeah. And it cuts back and forth with really sharp cuts, so you get an idea of what's going on with the different characters. Because this whole series is filled with a ton of characters.
Yeah.
And trying to decipher all their different stories and how it intersect within this hospital, which is, I guess, the easiest way to describe this hospital is it's built on like a gate from they gave it a name. I can't remember. It's like a gate from hell, because the only thing I can think of is
Similar.
something similar to Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell
Yeah.
trilogy. It's and the gate is slowly
Yeah.
opening, and
Yeah. So I did write down the opening narration. It's a
oh, did
lot.
you? Okay, see, I
Yeah,
was hoping.
I don't know if I want to read the whole thing, but it's a lot. But it's so the opening narration is never talked about during the series, but for each episode, it says it's like the ground underneath the kingdom is an old swamp. The bleaching ponds used to be here. Once the bleach, the men rinsed their linens in the shallow water to get them bleached, and the vapor unfolded in the area in permanent fog. And while this is happening, there's pretty cool looking shots
Yeah.
of people under there bleaching their clothes, and it's odd to me. What do you make of a bleaching pond? They're bleaching their clothes in the pond. Obviously, it's a metaphor or something for something evil. It caused some problems, I guess. It made a fog. Yeah, it's
Well, it reminds me of something that would happen in the town of Silent Hill.
yeah.
That's the impression I got. But the ideal is that it's there's this evil that's just percolating under the surface of the swamp, but then they build a hospital on top of this swamp. And I guess for a while it didn't experience anything supernatural, but it says there's cracks that
Yeah.
there's cracks that are appearing and stuff is seeping out, and that's why these supernatural elements start happening. Uh,
Yeah, a couple. I'll read a couple. I'm not gonna read the whole rest of the thing, but here's a couple other interesting lines. It says, "And ignorance and super." When it's talking about the doctors, they built the new hospital. It says, "Ignorance and superstition will never again challenge science." I mean, that's a pretty important. I think that's pretty important to the theme of the whole movie. When you look at the characters and what they're doing, like ignorance and superstition, which is some of the more likable characters embrace those qualities, and they would never again challenge science. And then it says, perhaps the arrogance has become too great, which when you see there are some fairly arrogant, hilarious characters in this. It's like just as the consistent denial of the spiritual. So it's saying that like the arrogance denying the spiritual and for becoming too arrogant and pretending like there's nothing spiritual, that's what caused the cracks to be. It's for it to appear to chill in the damp and have returned. Small marks of fatigue are emerging on the otherwise sturdy and modern buildings. And then the last part when it gets really intense on the opening, it's like, so far none of the living knows, but the gate to the kingdom is opening
yeah.
once again.
Yes, and then of course you see these hands coming out of the ground up to the surface. Now, there's no zombies in this show, but it's a cool image just to see the
Yeah,
hands.
yeah. So, yeah, so then, yeah, so that's the kind of I guess there's almost two thoughts to what's happens here in a way, because it's like I think that as a horror person, and you've mentioned the Gates of Hell's trilogy from was it Lucio Fulci?
Yeah,
Like that's almost like when you're seeing this, that could be this, but it's not this because that's one way this could have gone. But this actually is in a way kind of ER, a demented version of ER, with the characters are dealing with the supernatural things that happen in a hospital. That it's kind of starting to boil up, and it's not like in your face the whole time like a Lucio Fulci movie,
no.
but it's starting to happen. But this is very concerned with the characters and following them because it is a show, so it has that kind of Twin Peaks
Yeah.
quirkiness to it, where you have a lot of characters who are very quirky. Though I'm not sure. I almost feel in a way that Lars von Trier may like has some contempt for his characters because I don't think he likes any of them.
Only the two dishwashers who I'm trying to get their names, but I don't know their names, who are only ever seen in the dishwashing kitchen.
Right.
Entire episode. They don't knew, and they relay information that we're about to see.
They seem to be like very connected to the spiritual part of it.
Yes.
And they're not seen. So the question is, are they really there? Or is that space that they're in when they're washing dishes, is that really part of the hospital? Or is that like some other parallel plane? But at the same time, I don't think that's not answered in this, but there is a American remake of this. You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very loosely.
Yeah. But the dishwashers actually interact with the other characters in the Stephen King remake. But there's that one gets a little like it just doesn't get. I think the most important thing to me about this is the very dark, bizarre sense of humor.
Yes.
Of it that the American version just didn't get. They didn't understand that, and that's what when you're watching this, and that's what kind of makes everything. It's a very cynical point of view, but it's very hilarious what they do to these characters in the course of the film, and just how they set these characters up to fail pretty much, and
Well, that's an interesting way of going through this. Well, I guess what we should do is kind of go through these characters and see how their stories unfold over the course of the film. And we just mentioned the two dishwashing characters, who I don't know what the heck their names are. Like, they never say their names.
I don't think it matters.
But
I think one of them might be named Hans or Hans or something like a Hammer Studios. I don't know if it actually ever says their names though. They're two Down syndrome
Yeah.
actors who I think they're some of their lines. I think what they had to be dubbed. I don't think maybe both of them, but one of them had to be dubbed because they were. But but there it's a very bizarre feeling, the stuff that they talk about, and they're kind of in a way kind of narrating some of the things that happen, which kind of gives you a little more insight into the characters and into the supernatural elements. They talk about things coming up, and um, in each episode you see them a few times.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's the male character who seems to know everything, and he's saying it to the female character throughout everything. And that's interesting in the fact that he not only knows like everything that's going on supernatural with the hospital, but he seems to also know what's coming up in terms of the future. And
yeah.
it's odd because in this series they don't interact with a single other character. If these scenes were shot completely separate from everything else, and like you said, they may or may not be real.
Yeah.
It could be, they could not be, they could just be, but it's interesting to see these two characters and hear them talk about stuff that we're going to be seeing, or they know like how certain characters are feeling throughout so it's very interesting the way that those characters are used in this series. It does put the audience off a little bit. It's like, whoa, these characters know a little bit more than they ever should, and what is their purpose, and that's part of the mystery of them keeping them around. uh
They speak in a very simple, direct way, but
yes.
it's very effective for what they say because they actually have some fairly deep thoughts that they do say in the dialogue, but it's a very simple way of talking for the characters.
Yeah, yeah. So but moving right along, I think that we should address the big person in the whole show, which is Helmer, which is the
Yeah,
he's what is he? He's
he's
the
a neurosurgeon.
head attendee, the
Yeah,
the attending doctor. So all, and he's not from the hospital. He is a recent hire who's been put in charge of all the major surgeries, neurosurgeries there, and so he has this weird sense of power. And
so but he's Swedish, where everyone here is Danish.
yeah,
So there's like that it's hilarious, really. Like that's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing because he hates them. He hates the Danish people,
yeah,
and he
it's so hilarious.
yeah he thinks they're like idiots, and they do
And
often. They are very often inefficient. It's,
thieves, because he
yeah,
every morning he makes sure to takes his hubcaps with him so the
yeah.
neighborhood kids don't steal them from his car.
Right, right. Yeah, most of the when he usually appears at the beginning of the episode, he shows up in his car and he's takes his hubcaps off, and then he goes into the main office, and instead of going to the meeting where all the doctors are waiting for him, he complains to somebody in this office, and he sits there for like 30 minutes complaining about the parking and the parking lot.
Yeah, he always has something and the thing is, because he's new and he doesn't know he doesn't want to know how the hospital has operated without him. Most of the other doctors don't actually look up to him, except for I think it's the one. Is it? I can't remember her name.
Right, yeah, the Rigmore, I believe.
Yeah, yeah,
He's like in a relationship with her, which what that's the funny thing about a bureaucratic type of personality like him is he
yes.
wants everybody to follow these rules, but he's breaking them himself in a different way. Like he's dating this other doctor when that's something that should be looked not that's something that shouldn't be happening, but he's doing it anyway.
Yeah, it is. And his story is one of the reason why he's been sit there, or why he has this job, which is he screwed up on a patient. And he's I think it's Mona. I think it's Mona. It's the patient.
I don't think that's the reason he was sent there. I think it's something that he did while he was there because Mona is actually in the hospital. He
Yeah,
did
yeah,
something before that too.
yeah, yeah. I think he did too. He did something before that, but he did something there to the patient Mona, and she's more or less brain dead.
Yeah.
And
But he can't get along with anybody is one of his problems too. They probably wanted the other hospital he was at. They probably wanted him to get the hell out of there. So,
Yeah.
well, it, the Mona character is pretty interesting character. She's a brain dead. He did surgery on her, and then something got botched during the surgery, and she seems to be brain dead in a way, and she can't communicate anymore, and and during the course of it, he's trying to. There's an anesthesiologist report that his girlfriend Rigmore like poured coffee on to destroy it. So, and then later on, it becomes a plot point that there ends up being a copy of that report in the archive room, and it becomes like a pretty hilarious part in part three when they're trying to get into the archive room. Like three different characters are trying to get in there for different reasons, and it's such a great little farce little part that happens in part three. It,
No, farce is a good word to describe certain things that happen in this first part. There are some amazing there's just some very comedic things that happen in this that you wouldn't expect to happen in a show like this. Especially the
yeah,
archive scene, which is one of my favorite sequences in the whole this whole part one, much less part three, which has a lot of great things in it. Because the first episode does a lot of setting up. It does a lot of setting up, and there is a lot to be told about this character because his story is intertwined with so many other characters. Um, so his character, because of who he is as this doctor, he's also a doctor who's being what do you call it, initiated into the so-called secret lodge of
yeah,
all the major doctors at the facility with their weird rules and their unconventional ways of doing things. um I,
yeah. Which you completely hates, but he has to kind of go along
yes,
with it.
that's the funny
Yeah,
part.
yeah,
Completely hates that, yet that's a like a social status thing there is
yeah,
lodge because the other main doctor, Krogshoy or Hook. I think his nickname's Hook.
yeah. I would just call him Hook.
Yeah, I'm gonna call him
Yeah,
Hook.
yeah,
Yeah, I should.
but yeah,
Yeah, Hook is not part of the lodge, yet he has helped the lodge on several occasions, and they respect him despite the fact he is an outsider. So you can see some of the stuff that is interesting with these dynamics for different characters there. And Helmer hates Hook because Hook does not pay attention to his rules at all. Um,
right. And I think that Hook's kind of see, like Helmer kind of represents a bureaucracy type of character who wants all this charge, and Hook's kind of the type of character who doesn't like it. He's pushes against it, and that's probably why he's not in the lodge either, is because he doesn't want to conform,
yeah,
but at the same time he wants to do things his own way, and he does it in a very bizarre way. But it's funny how it's in comparison to the American version. Andrew McCarthy plays that character in the American version, the Hook character. Um, he comes off very like it's bizarre how I mean here it works in a natural type of way, but Andrew McCarthy comes off like very kind of, especially when he gets in. One of the biggest things is he lives at the hospital. He's got his own room at the hospital, and but he comes off kind of sleazy, really. Andrew McCarthy is like they were trying to make that character more sleazy, but he doesn't come off sleazy in the Danish series at all. I mean, the girl comes in there, but he's not like hitting on her and trying to get her to have sex with him right then. He's actually kind of like, this is what my thing is. I'm living here and I can help you. And he actually does help her.
yeah.
And instead of trying to get her to have sex with him.
Yeah, and he doesn't suffer fools. Like he sees right through the patient Drew's the Drew's Rue what do you want to call that? Her subterfuge to stay in the hospital. He sees right through it because he's seen her there before. They had a name for what her character was.
But,
She's just a patient that just likes to stay
yeah.
at the hospital. He doesn't know why, obviously, because she has no alternative reason for being there. And we'll get into her reason. But to him, she's just a patient who is just annoying, and we all know that she's not really sick, and she should never be allowed admitted to the hospital anyways.
Yeah. It says she's been admitted, I think, 23 times, and she's never sick. She just pretends like she's sick. But But yeah, that character is a very important character to the driving force, I guess, behind a lot of the supernatural stuff because she is the kind of clairvoyant character she's looking for something supernatural. She really represents that part of what the opening title was talking about, the superstitious people and the spiritual people, but which I guess in some ways very similar. Superstitious and spiritual, two different parts of it, but she does come off. I guess she comes off more superstitious, but she ends up being right ultimately.
Yeah, she's a Drews, who is the mother of the Boulder character who works at the hospital as, I guess, an orderly.
Yeah,
I
he
can't,
does seem to be an orderly. Yeah,
yeah, like he's always there, but like he seems to be almost more like a nurse slash orderly, but he doesn't really
yeah.
attend the patients, but he's always there. But Boulder is her son, and
Well, he may. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what he does though,
yeah,
because he does seem to be an orderly, but he does seem to be really like connected with the people on the lower floors who
yeah.
deal with like the dispatch and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, because he's really in with the security department, and he's able to get around the hospital much more than you assume, like some of the other orderlies that we see in the background in scenes all the time. But that being said, she uses her son to get access to places that any normal patient would never have access to and not be able to do. Because it is quite funny that she holds seances not just
Yeah.
with not just with patients, but also with doctors as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean some of the people they're into her, but what happens, the Helmer character gets wind of what's going on. And that's with the first time you meet Helmer, it's actually hilarious what happens because he's not in charge, but this particular day the guy who's usually in charge isn't there. So he comes in late into the meeting and everybody's waiting for him and the Hook character goes ahead and does the meeting without him, but then he comes in pissed off and he makes everybody come back in and do the meeting anyway. And then he finds out that Helmer actually put what's her name, Druce, into the admitted her and had her do a CT scan. And he's like, "Do you know how much CT scans cost?"
Oh, Hook.
Yeah,
Admitted her.
yeah. Hook admitted her, and he kind of gets on him about. He's like, "You know how much CT scans cost?" He's like, "CT scanny,"
Which
and
also plays into a huge plot point later in the series as well. I like how some of this stuff that we find funny in like the first episode actually plays off in later episodes. Um,
yeah,
and so it's this whole thing about power in this. And Hook, before Helmer showed up, had a lot of power at that facility, and you learn that in a future episode when you realize that Hook is like the drug dealer slash uh he can get anyone anything they want by reusing and abusing his privileges there at the hospital. He has the secret skeleton key. He sleeps at the hospital in the basement in his own makeshift little place. He distills drugs. I mean, the guy can
yeah. He's
get
got a black market going
a
on.
black
Yeah,
market. And you think that he's like this altruistic, good, great doctor, uh, but you realize that he does a lot of shady shit in order to have control
yeah.
and over everything that happens in the hospital, which is
Well, yeah,
essentially what Helmer tries to do, but more in the legal way.
yeah. I don't think Hook is a good doctor though. They actually say that at one point. One of the other characters mentioned that he's just an okay doctor. I think it's his I think he's very distracted by all the other activities that he's involved in, making his actual physician stuff kind of just okay.
Mm.
Because there's some comment about that. I think the was it Mosgard, the guy who's really in charge of the whole hospital, who's
Yeah.
who's a complete space cadet and hilarious. But he's the one. He says he's an okay doctor. You need to But yeah, there is some talk about it because never like a talk. You never see him doing anything that good. And even when Helmer's when he's doing surgery in there, even when he's making him do something, he just seems like he's like not. He doesn't care that much about that aspect of it. He more cares about the black market stuff that he's involved in. He kind of reminds me of the character Milo Pressman from Catch 22. You know,
I get the impression that I don't think any of the doctors in this hospital are particularly great.
Yeah,
I think that this hospital is a hospital that's like a grade C.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Everybody's just pretty damn average. Even Judith, who is
yeah.
Hook's ultimate love connection in this, even if she comes off as being just kind of a good doctor, not a great doctor. Uh,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Hook's also very judgmental in a way because when she goes down to his basement, he has like a set of different like kind of plant like I guess pot things where he has crosses in them for every time a doctor has done a botched surgery that he puts that there and he puts the patient's name and the doctor's name as a kind of a reminder of their sins or their something they need to answer for, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons that drives Hook to figure out what happened, surgery that Helmer botched and is now being possibly sued for by the patient's or Mona's mother and family. So,
Yeah.
because he was there, he doesn't. That's the funny thing. He was there in the room. He just doesn't remember what happened.
Yeah. Right, right. And it's like the funny thing of it, it's so screwed up that Helmer like that messed up a surgery in a way that made this little girl brain dead. And but they really play that in for the darkest possible comedy you can imagine, like that, because after he goes into the lodge and the Helmer goes into the lodge, that's the first thing he's told to do. They're like, you need to go make amends. They put him on an impossible task. They're like, you need to go in there and talk to the mom of this brain dead girl and make sure that she's okay with all this and she doesn't sue the hospital. And so he goes in there and he's not a very he doesn't have a very good bedside manner. And so there's no way he's gonna succeed. It's like one of the most hilarious scenes, darkly hilarious scenes ever, because he goes in there, the mom's there trying to feed this girl who's brain dead applesauce, and she's like spitting it out, and he's trying to talk her into not suing the hospital.
Yeah, no, good God. Oh man, but well,
It doesn't go very good.
no, it doesn't go very. The Helmer character is he's an interesting character because there are so many different things that he does wrong that is not only hilarious to us, but also to how he approaches it. Like we said, the archive sequence is fucking hilarious. And he's so naive sometimes because
Yeah,
he doesn't care to know anything about the people who are under him.
yeah,
Um, and he looks down even upon the people who are above him in regards to the lodge people led by Mosgard, which is who he thinks is incompetent anyways, which is hilarious.
yeah. Well, what's real funny about Mosgard too is he's doing this thing called Operation Morning Air, and he keeps bringing out these stickers, and he's like, "Hey," and Helmer comes in there trying to talk to him about a legitimate concern he has at the hospital about Hook and the CT scan, and he's like, "Hey, don't even worry about that. Let's take a look at these Morning Air stickers." It's like a campaign he's going for, and he's just trying to bring positivity to the hospital in a kind of romper room type of way. It's anytime it dealt with, it's like so damn funny.
Yeah, but that goes with Mosgard's kind of modus operandi. He does that in the lodge too, in the lodge setting, where it's all like the lodge and everyone in the lodge is like one big family. And of course, Helmer doesn't fit in with that because he doesn't really want to be there. And he really doesn't think that the hospital he thinks that the hospital has a hierarchy of which he is at the top, just under Mosgard, and everyone below him should treat him like he is above them, but they don't.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's because, and the whole reason is because of Mosgard. I mean, he's really the cause
Yeah.
of that, other than Helmer's personality. But see, if went to him, if Helmer goes to Mosgard and says, "Hey, this Hook guy just went around me, scheduled a CT scan," if the Mosgard went to Hook and said, "Hey, man, don't do that again," I think he would have gotten a lot more respect. But instead, he's like, "Let's not even worry about it." He's like, Hook's a okay doctor. That's when he says it. He's a good enough doctor.
All right, so we've actually now talked a lot about we talked a good. I don't know if we're going to talk about more about Mosgar just yet, but we talked
Yeah,
about Helmer a lot. So let's go to the Hook. A
yeah,
little bit more about Hook, and his because he's the main doctor for us, the viewer that
yeah.
we're following, and he seems to have an altruistic motive for the most part. He does help out a lot of people in this story, but he also has his own agendas as well, especially in regards to his blackmailing of Moog or Moog? Moog.
Yeah, as a Mosgar's son, Moog.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was also a very hilarious, incompetent character as well. But
Yes. What do you call it? He's like almost like an intern, I think is what he is, but he's still taking classes, but also he's also doing rounds. And
he's
so,
he'd kind of be like the Dr. Carter character on ER, like Noah Wiley's character, but
yeah, yeah.
he's a lot more immature than that character
A
was.
lot.
Yeah,
He's funny. I like the character a little bit, a little bit. They don't do enough with him in this series, to be honest with you. But he's funny because he has this crush on the Camille character who is in charge of the sleep lab. Uh,
yeah,
and so it's crazy what he does there. And of course his pranks slash the how shall we put it? How he gets the severed head.
yeah. So yeah, but that other character is really important too. That Bondo character, who's
Oh
the
no.
head of pathology, that he's the so he's in his class, the Bondo's class, and he's got a cadaver there that they've been working on, and so the Moog character decides he wants to pull a prank on the girl at the sleep lab, and so he cuts the head off the cadaver, and for some reason it looks, I mean, it's the same, it's a cast of the actor's head, but for some reason within the movie that cadaver looks like him, so he's like that corpse looks like me, so we're gonna act like it's my head, and I cut it off, so he's gonna put it so she can see it and like think that it was him. It's a really stupid prank idea.
Oh, it's even more stupid when he loses the head.
Yeah. but then yeah, I mean, I don't know what he thought, how he thought this was going to work, but the other guy, the Bondo guy, finds out the head's missing, and he knows that he did it, and he's pissed, but he can't prove it. But then he's trying to hide the head from him for several episodes until the head suddenly disappears completely.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah,
yeah. Well, that's the hilarious part because he's trying to play a prank on the girl that he actually likes, and then of course the head shows up under Hook's lock and key,
yeah,
and Hook uses it as a means to blackmail him. When Hook does that, you get a sense that he has probably blackmailed a lot of people at the hospital, and we learn about some of the people that he has that owe him favors. You can just imagine exactly what happened for them. Those people that owe Hook favors, and that's how he gets. That's his currency there at the hospital.
yeah. And so yeah, like you were saying before, this is kind of the character that it does seem to be the character for the audience, but it is a character that's a lot more flawed
Yeah,
than you would normally suspect this character to be. Now, he is even more flawed in the American version, I think, even though he's similarly flawed, but I think he's even more creepy in that one, even though they kind of try to make him more likable sometimes, but it is weird that they do that with this character because this is the character that should not be this way, and it is.
yeah. I mean, he literally is distilling cocaine
Yeah,
in
yeah,
his little spot. His little spot. He's literally keeping a severed head on ice as a blackmail tool. I think the best thing that he does is trying to, gets the actual paperwork from what happened with Mona and the botched surgery. It seems to be a cool little thing that he's doing for something that's good. But then,
yeah,
of course, he uses that as well to blackmail Helmer later on in the story.
yeah,
There's not anything this guy wouldn't do, but
yeah.
there are some elements in the film that make him more of a likable character that we see, especially in the fourth episode. But
Yeah, but
oh
he often helps like Druce though, and
yeah,
he helps other characters. So he doesn't seem like he's complete. I mean, here's the thing. He does blackmail. Well, he doesn't do any of this for himself, though. Nothing that it's all about. He has a philosophy that these things are working. Like say for instance, he does the cocaine thing. It's all about it's all about getting one thing to the other. He doesn't like waste. He wants to get
Yeah,
these things, and he just uses. And maybe it is about power in a way, but he doesn't seem like he is power hungry. Maybe he is, but he does seem like he is interested in making things work a different way than they work. I think that's more what he's trying to do. He's like, there is a different way to do things, and we could do this differently than the way that they're that these bureaucrats are doing it. We can do it differently than them, less wasteful, and more of a community thing.
no, I agree with you on that. That's especially how I saw him blackmailing Helmer with the documents at the very end. What he really is doing is just making it so that that none of the doctors there have to go to Helmer to get permission to use the CT scan. Um,
Yeah.
that's it. Because Helmer has all the power in which he could stop any one of the other doctors from continuing on doing their jobs simply by enforcing that rule where everyone has to get that approved by him.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you, I mean, you have to, like in Helmer's position, you do have to put a stop to people like Hook. But it is kind of annoying that this guy who's supposed to be in charge rolls in like 30 minutes, an hour late, where you could have already had done the meeting. He's wasting everybody's time. And there's just all this waste. And then a character like Hook, who's like tired of waste, he just wants to get on with it.
Mhm.
But clearly though, you have to, if you are in charge, you can't just let someone like Hook do what he's doing.
No, no, and that's what makes this film so interesting and engaging is because all the characters are flawed, and a lot of their flaws are some of the flaws. I won't say a lot of them now. Some of their flaws are actually for the betterment of others, and not always just an individual thing. Even with Helmer, he's trying to keep the budget down and stop useless waste at the hospital.
Well, that's what he says. Yeah, he says he's trying to keep but it's all about power with him though, because he does talk about inefficiency, but Hook's also concerned about inefficiency as well. Um, I guess they both kind of in some ways might have that same kind of goal, just in different ways.
That's why I think that's exactly what I think. I think they
Yeah,
have very similar goals, but in different manners of how to do it. Now, I also chalk that up to the different generations between the Helmer character, who's an older generation, and the Hook character. I also see it like that. And also their bedside manners at a hospital. So
yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I think that Helmer's hilarious because he just like thinks everybody there is just there. He thinks they're idiot. He will call them idiots sometimes to their face,
you
but he just busts in there and it's just like just you guys are all idiots. I know what I'm talking about. Everybody sit down. That's it.
Yeah, I know that is quite hilarious when he does that. But getting before we get off of Moog too much, um, Moog when he decides to become part of that whole sleep lab thing, not to get closer to the Camille character. Uh, the thing about him, and the one that make mention is that he's probably has the most horrifying thing that happens to him throughout the movie, which is he suffers from this nightmare where these strangers are literally eating his flesh, like
Yeah,
you know, and that's a repeating thing for him. Until
yeah.
of course his friend tells him an alternative way of looking at his sleep and nightmares. But that's a little disturbing sequence because we don't get anything like that else in the entire series. Um,
Yeah, that's like some Lucci, Fulci stuff there
yes,
with that. But that,
it is.
yeah, it's also very ironic though too because it, the girl after the head part after he puts the fake head in there, she tells him she never wants to see him again, and then she's in charge of the sleep lab. So instead of not of listening to her, he makes himself one of the sleep patients, so she has to interact with him, and so he kind of gets himself into it. And we're injecting, and even Hook says, "You don't want to do that. They inject you with weird drugs." And he's like, "No, I got to do it," and he goes in, and then he gets injected with weird drugs, and next thing you know, he's having these like reoccurring nightmares, and he's being blackmailed by Hook, so he's just having a completely shitty time.
Yeah, well, until the very last episode that
Yeah, yeah.
I won't reveal that just yet. But I wanted to get through kind of the Mo character because he does seem like a tertiary character for the most part until that last episode, really, I believe. He just seems
But yeah,
like that tertiary character that you kind of laugh at the entire time, really.
yeah. One of the more hilarious scenes with him is like it's just such a bizarre thing that happens. Like Hook and Helmer and Mosgard are getting onto the elevator, and it opens, and there he is standing there, like Moog standing there with this toothbrush ready to go to the sleep lag, just sitting there like daydreaming with a big grin on his face. And then he's Mosgard's son. He's like, "Hey, son, how you doing?" He's such a good boy, and Helmer's just staring at him like, "What an idiot!" He doesn't say anything because he's with Mosgard, but he's just like,
Oh my God. Yes, yes. Okay. So you know what? We should go straight into to Drew's next, since she is the crux of the story, and then we should hit probably Judith's story afterwards because she's another important one. But let's go into Drew's, who is the patient who just kind of stays at the hospital permanently, it seems like. Through the course of this film, she's there for at least 3 weeks. But getting into the hospital seems to be very easy for her since she knows everybody. And the only person who doesn't like her is Helmer.
Would this actually only this takes place during the course of 4 days. It may seem like 3 weeks, but I think it's 4 days because each episode's a different day.
You know what? I tried to ask myself that, but she says that the doctor says she's been there for 3 weeks. Oh, the fourth episode, they ask how long has she been there, and they say 3 weeks, and
But
the visiting doctor tells her, well, she's fine. Get rid of her tomorrow.
yeah, well, I think that might be that she just has been there before the series begins. I think she's been there before, but even the first episode.
Well, yeah, we know she's been there before. You think it literally it's only like 4 days for the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is because each episode begins in the morning and it ends at night, and then the next episode they talk about what happened the day before, which is the events of the previous episode.
Because I kept thinking that I couldn't figure out the time period from when the Judith character, from the very first episode to the very last episode, where she claims to be 11 weeks pregnant, but looks 29 weeks pregnant. I think that's what she looks 29 weeks.
Well, she has an accelerated pregnancy brought on by it's a supernatural pregnancy, so they kind of she goes from like you don't even know she's pregnant to
Yeah,
like oh wow she's having a baby. What happened?
yeah. So I think that's what made me think that when the doctor or Mosgard says that she's been there for 3 weeks, that there's the whole series takes place within 3 weeks. I could be wrong. I don't know. They don't really, in my opinion, they don't really make it exactly clear, but I think I can see your point as well, where each day is just the next day.
Well, I mean, if you think about the events of each episode kind of ends with a cliffhanger, and then the next episode kind of resolves that type of cliffhanger and it does seem like like I say I could be mistaken too, but I'm pretty sure that this is designed to be each day. And this happened in Twin Peaks too, and there's like a part in Twin Peaks where like the main character gets shot and then it's like the next day, like you think that it would be like a long recovery, but he only ends up he has a bulletproof vest on. He only ends up getting one bullet in him, but he still recovers within that one episode, and it's not really mentioned that much later on.
Well, the thing is that Judith, who seems to be the most normal, is the most one of the most unnormal one because she was seeing a guy that she got pregnant by, but then she also is in love with our Hook character, and Hook's in love with her, and it seems to be a happy thing. Hook is going to take charge, I guess, and be the father to the baby that's not his, but some other guy that she's really happy about. But through the course of the events in the story, it tests Hook's resolve, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that relationship is also the most. It makes Hook very human. Out of all the other things that happen in the entire show, that makes him the most human. His reactions and his relationship with the Judith character, who, for all intents purposes, for this entire show, doesn't do much of anything other than be the love interest for Hook. Really.
Well, she's also pregnant with the ghost
Yeah.
kid. But she does, like, you do see her earlier on involved with some of the surgery stuff that they're doing. Like in the yeah, I think when the first episode she's involved with the would they have, I think it's the second episode, they actually have, they're doing a surgery where the doctor is putting he's using hypnosis anesthesia, which Helmer like flips out when he finds out that's what they're doing. But yeah, but then and then he like brings that, like the guy calls himself Me, I guess is what he calls himself. I don't know exactly what that means in in
Danish.
Danish, but he says Me. He's like this guy's calling himself Me, and he says he's going to put my patient under anesthesia instead. I mean, under hypnotic anesthesia instead of real anesthesia.
A lot of I guess new age approaches for stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, but it is interesting what happens to Judith's character, uh, especially when we get to the more supernatural aspects, especially when what's her face, the real ghost of this whole film, Mary.
Yeah, Mary. Yeah.
I forgot we need to add her to our other list of characters we need to talk about. Is Mary. Mary makes some comments about her, which are then revealed to be about her unborn baby. Um, so
Right, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that character Judas, like of all the main characters, the one other than Druce is the one that's tied into the supernatural stuff more than the other ones. A lot of the other characters are dealing with political things and just like button heads with each other and other things that are more grounded. But
yeah,
that character having a baby, she was, it turns out I guess the boyfriend was a ghost, and now she has a kind of a ghost type of baby in her stomach,
yeah,
which is very bizarre. That and the Mary character for most of these first four episodes, those are the biggest supernatural pulls to it that eventually becomes different after the fourth episode of this series. But
yeah. So I mean, there are a lot of supernatural elements in this film, and you just mentioned the two major ones: the Mary's ghost, and of course Judith with the unborn ghost baby.
there is one more though, which which is
Ambulance.
which is yeah, which is also tied to Mary in a very significant way. But I think Mary's the driving force, really. That and her dad are the driving force for the supernatural events that take place in the first four episodes of this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I almost forgot where we were going. Oh, we were talking about Judith. We started with Judith, and then we moved over to Mary.
Well,
Uh,
it was kind of hard not to, because
yeah,
her
it
baby is connected to that.
It is. And that's the thing is, the kind of show kind of starts off with just the Drew's character hearing Mary's voice in the elevator, and then Drew's going off to solve this mystery of, first of all, who this ghost is, and then how she can help the ghost achieve whatever it is that she needs to achieve. That seems to be the driving force. But then other things get entangled in within the story. The ghost ambulance, or the ghost radio call that's been plaguing the hospital every night, from ambulance 12, and then of course Mary and her tryst with a ghost, which yields a very supernatural pregnancy.
You mean Judith, not Mary. Mary's a little girl, so
Mary, no, I said Mary. Mary's the ghost girl.
Yeah, yeah, but Judith's the one that had the tryst with the
Oh, that's
ghost, and now
Mary.
she's
Yeah,
pregnant.
Judith,
Yeah,
Judith, Judith,
yeah, yeah.
Judith. Yes. And then all these characters, they all kind of intertwine towards the third episode, which is a good way, a good setup. I mean, like I said, the very first episode is set up to get you interested in the whole story and introduces all these characters. There's a lot of complicated relationships in this show as it progresses, but then they kind of come to a head, literally, in the very final moments of the fourth episode. Uh, it's I don't know how, I'm trying to hint upon, there's so much stuff in this that I want to try and touch upon, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it in a logical manner for people who have never seen the show.
Right. Well, I guess I got some notes for each episode. We could just kind of go. I know we've touched a lot of it.
I've been trying to
Let's see.
characters and their
Yeah,
kind of progression through each
you're
one.
right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, yeah, and I think that's I think really though what to me like you go into this thinking it's going to be like a horror thing, but if it is a lot like it is a lot like Twin Peaks where you come for the horror aspects and then you stay for like just the absurdity of everything that's going on. There's so much absurdity with the and comedy with the characters that's not like I said, it is like a subtle, more of a subtle comedy, but it is to me this is the kind of comedy I like. I mean, I'm like cracking up most of some of the earlier episodes with this. Yeah, really up until like, most episodes I'm cracking up until near the end when it really cranks up something so it does this now it does this kind of thing where it ends in a cliffhanger where this is something that when I first watched this like Twin Peaks kind of started this and now it's like every show does it, but most stuff they weren't doing this where everything was connected. They did like a one and off episode and they maybe a little bit of connection, but it wasn't like this where you're watching one story. It's four episodes, but each episode is telling the same story. It just progresses the story forward. Even ER is episodic most of the time. Sometimes things will overlap, but most of the time you may have some cases. You have like maybe three or four different cases at the ER. By the end of the episode, those cases were done for the most part until the next episode. Then you got new ones. But this and Twin Peaks and a lot of shows like Breaking Bad and later episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer would like take the take the plot and stretch it out for a whole season instead of one episode.
Mhm.
And that's it was pretty unique at this time. Now it's kind of gotten to the point where people see it now. They say, okay, you're stretching the plot out. You're basically taking a movie and you're making it 8 hours. But it was a very unique way of telling the story. Yeah, I mean, I still like the way that they do it here.
Mhm. No, I mean it. I think this is one of those things. This project is one of those things where it it benefits the audience to give them time to actually get into the lives of these characters because there's so many of them and how their lives are intertwined with the supernatural element in the overarching show. That very first episode, there's not really much supernatural elements in that first episode at all. Yeah, Drews hears Mary in the elevator several times. But to be honest with you, we don't see much of that until the second episode. By the fourth episode, it's all out supernatural.
Yeah.
We've seen I mean they're trying to capture or wall off Mary's ghost into a wall. They're
Yeah.
trying, we have a supernatural birth that happens. You know,
The ending of part four is crazy. And that's like what most people think the ending of this is. Like, but the fourth episode, on top of that, has some of the funniest moments of the whole series in it. Because of what Helmer does in that episode. But it's but it's
go. I was about to say go. We should go ahead and do it because uh everything that we've been watching, the first three episodes leads up to the fourth episode, and Helmer, what happens to him, and definitely what happens to Mosgard with the Ministry of Health
Yeah,
that roams through the hallways. So we
yeah.
should go ahead and tell the Helmer, go ahead and address some of that stuff in the fourth episode, because I think we will end up backtracking to stuff that leads up to that, which we have not already
Yeah.
discussed.
Well, I think really the only thing we haven't discussed is the Bondo character. But
Oh,
yeah, I don't know if we want to do that first or talk about this hilarious part with the Ministry of Health or whatever. That's like some of the best shit though when that happens.
dude, some of the best shit.
But I
Uh,
guess we should probably talk about Bondo first
let's
because that
talk
is
about
part
Bondo.
of it. Yeah, because the Bondo character is the he he's like the teacher of that. He's the pathologist. A pathologist is a physician who specializes in diagnosing diseases by examining the bodies. And so he's he's been looking for this special liver tumor, and he found a patient that has this tumor,
Mhm.
and he's been looking for it for 10 years, and he goes to the patient, and they tell him to screw off, they're like, no, we're not gonna let you have the tumor. But then he brings it to the lodge, and then he goes up and talks to the lodge, telling everybody what he wants to do. And then Helmer's just like, "This is like the most stupidest shit I've ever heard before." He's and then Mosgard's like, "Well, you really need to think about helping him. That's your new assignment for the lodge."
So just to give the Bondo character decides that he wants to have a transplant with the diseased liver, only long enough to make it his own property, and then put his liver back into his body. And that's the plan. Obviously,
Yeah, Helmer comes up with that plan, but Helmer's plan is different than that. Helmer says, "We get the liver, we transplant it to a terminal patient. When that patient dies, we take it then." And then Bondo's like, "No, we can't do it that way. That's unethical."
as opposed to doing it the other way. So unfortunately, what happens is that the Bondo goes to the transplant, gets damaged liver, but he gets in critical condition, and instead of them taking that damaged liver out, they have to close him up with the damaged liver, which means that his good liver ends up having to die,
Yeah.
um, uh, and he can't use it. So now Bondo is in the hospital secretly now, because they shouldn't have done this surgery in the first place, because their hospital's not designed for transplant surgeries. And
Right. Yeah. They used the basement the first time,
they,
and
yeah,
then
they, they,
but then the second time they're like, we're going to go around Moose Guard and do it in the neurology ward. But
uh,
yeah, but so that's what kind of that brings you to the Ministry of Health, and they're coming there because they're very excited about Operation Morning Air, and they want to see it in motion. It's
dude, I have to say, this is one of the funniest things. I keep forgetting how funny this whole sequence is. It's funnier every time I see it. But this also coincides with Drew's Boulder, her son, and not Helmer, but Hook, trying to wall up Mary's ghost in the wall, thinking that that's gonna exorcise her ghost from the entire facility, because the first time they tried that, which is they found her body that was just sitting in storage, encased, as if her body's going to be used for science. They bury her body on the hospital grounds, thinking that would
yeah.
help Mary's ghost, find her purpose. And
Yeah, it's really weird that it was encased. It was sitting in Bondo's office the whole time, apparently.
yeah,
That
and
he just had it like a little girl's corpse inside of a big jar sitting in his office.
yeah, pickled.
Yeah, but what happens at the beginning? The fourth episode is the best episode, but at the beginning of it, like Helmer has had a change of heart. It seems because he thinks he's screwed because Hook's got the anesthesia report,
Yeah,
yeah, anesthesiologist report, and he thinks he's been basically told on, and he comes in there and he's just done, and then he finds out Hook's trying to blackmail him, and then he decides that it's something that he with his girlfriend Rigmore the whole time she's got supernatural beliefs, and she's talked about Haiti a lot,
Mhm.
and so she wants to go to Haiti, and he's like, "We're going to Haiti." And then he finds out about this zombie potion that they can make in Haiti, and so he says, he decides not to go to Haiti with her, with her friend who's like actually has some knowledge about voodoo stuff in Haiti. So he takes him, and then he tells her to close her eyes and wait. And he's got a surprise for her, and he just bounces.
He sneaks out of the hospital. It's hilarious.
But before that happens, though, he Mosgard comes up to him. He's like, "Hey, man, the Ministry of Health's coming. I need you." He's like, I get really nervous about stuff like this. I need you to like show them around the hospital. I'm just gonna watch from the corner. You just show them around the hospital. I'll watch and be proud." He's like, "Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea." He's like, not gonna do it, but he's like, "All right, it sounds good."
Yeah. Uh, so the Ministry of Health, they all come in. They all come in, and of course, Mosgard doesn't want to do it, so he's hiding underneath his desk, trying to hide, and they can plainly see he's there.
Yeah.
Uh,
But that's like that. This is like the first time too with this Mosgard character that they do some pretty good stuff with him in the second part of the series. But this is the first time you see him act different. He's been all positive and everything's just been positive. And this time he's also nervous, hiding under the desk, and then they bust him,
yeah.
and then he's just like completely like he actually cusses under his breath for the first time, damns Helmer or something like that, which is way out of character and complete is really awesome though, because Helmer did really screw him over.
Yeah, he just left to Haiti to go find the zombie power and try and create his own zombie, which is just crazy to think about
Yeah.
to begin with. But this then forces us, the viewer, to see all of the characters in the series, and from the outside perspective, which is Mosgard, who doesn't know any of this shit's going on in his own hospital, and it's all revealed as the Ministry of Health is going along with him, and he's supposed to be showing them the greatness of the hospital, and at every turn there is something weird, odd that he has no control over, and
Yeah.
it's hilarious to see their reactions to everything. They, like I said, they come across was it they come across the Hook
Yeah.
walling up the hole in which they thought they had trapped Mary's spirit. Like,
Yeah. But then like the Drew's character in the same scene has ectoplasm all over from
yeah,
well, like right before that, yeah, they try to exorcise her. They put her into the wall, and then it's just that's the first thing they come across, and
it's yeah, they don't know why he's doing that, but they don't want to try to explain it. They just kind of
yeah,
okay, and then they walk on. Uh,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
what's the next thing they come to? So
Well, I guess, and then I'm trying to think I mean, I don't remember
I don't know
exactly in
the order either,
order, but
but they
it's hilarious. It's hilarious. While this is going on, like the Judith character is going into labor in a really crazy way. Let's see.
well,
With-
they're trying to abort they're trying to kill
yeah.
the baby
Well,
before.
what they come into next, I think, or they come into Bondo's actually having the liver transplant surgery
Oh
in
yeah,
the
because
neurology ward today, which
yeah,
is pretty bad.
it's pretty bad because Bondo is saying, "I don't want to have the surgery." Of course, they don't know it's the Ministry of Science thinks he's just a regular patient and not an actual doctor at the facility, and they're asking him questions. Well, how do you like the service here? I don't want the service. I told him not to, and they're all looking at him like, "Well, you can't give this man service if he refuses it."
Yeah, yeah. Well, he does like the Bondo character decides that he wants to keep the liver longer, so it will be the tumor will be bigger because
Yeah,
he's seen but he's kind of delusional too because he's under anesthetic. He's decided that he wants the tumor to get bigger because there's a bigger tumor out there and he wants it to be the biggest tumor. And so he wants it to keep it another week or two, but they have a new liver for him but then he's like, oh yeah, he's like, we can't let this go forward.
and then of course they come up to Moog, who is back at the sleep lab, but he's not after getting suggestions from his friend Christian about having good dreams. Moog has a really good dream about having sex with Camille in his dream, and of course
Yeah.
Camille outside is looking at all of the readings. They're now saying, "Oh, he's having wet dreams now, and he's not having nightmares." So for all intents purposes, they, Mo goes in there to have another one of his sessions, and of course, Camille for the first time says, "You know what? You're kind of hot. Let me just have sex with you right now on the table here." And of course, this is funny because for me it was like the reaction from Mosgard when when he steps into all of this. They go in there. We have this state of the art sleep lab that we do all kinds of stuff for, and they go back, and of course they pull the curtain away, and of course it's his son and Camille having sex on the table, and he says nothing really. He just kind of looks,
and
then has to walk out.
Yeah, it's so great though. That whole sequence is so awesome though.
It is because I think at that point, Mosgard is saying, "I don't know what's going on in my own hospital anymore."
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. What's funny is in the Stephen King version of this, Ed Begley Jr. plays that character really awesome, really great casting. I think in the American version, he's great in this too. He's probably better in this, but I really think Ed Begley Jr. was probably the most inspired casting of all of them in the remake. But the character, they don't use. I don't think they use any of this, any of the part or the part two stuff that happens after this because he does some pretty cool stuff in the second part that he doesn't do in the Stephen King version. He just kind of more comedic relief for the most part. But this does affect him going forward after this horrible stuff with the ministry, the health ministry guy.
well, I believe that the Moog sequence is the last one, and that's when all the doctors just walk out, right?
Yeah.
So they all walk out.
Yeah. They think they'd seen enough. This Operation Morning Air is like not working. They're actually all kind of Helmer-ish anyway. Like all those guys, they're kind of like that type of mentality.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever would have liked Operation Morning Air, even if it was in full operation. There's like this one scene every morning they have the group table scene where he's trying to implement Operation Morning Air like Mosgard is, and the way that he does it, he has everybody in the room sing their name.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? That's like, but can you imagine like this Ministry of Health seeing that? They probably wouldn't have liked that either. There, that was like so goofy. Then Helmer won't do it. Helmer's just sitting there like, I'm not doing this.
No. So. But then while that's going on, because I don't want to get to that last sequence with the one Ministry of Health doctor roaming the back hallways just yet. Judas is the killing of her baby did not go as well, and she goes into labor. And then there's that quick talk about whether or not they need to kill the baby while it's still in the womb, because if it's outside of the womb they can't do it because then it'd be murder. And then of course the big sequence is that she starts to give birth to a big fucking head.
Udo Kier's head like pops out of her vagina.
And it's a very graphic scene, that whole scene. But at the same time that's happening, because it ends on that crazy fucking scene, we also have one of the doctors from the Ministry of Science roaming the back hallways, and now he could see all the ghosts roaming around the hospital, and we see this almost like a golf cart roaming.
It's a trolley car.
Is it a trolley car?
Yeah, it's like a trolley with a bunch of ghosts on it.
A bunch of ghosts.
Yeah. What happened there though, and they say it in there, is that they left the hole open too long because when the Ministry of Health came up, they couldn't close it right away, so they left it open for too long. So some other spirits got out of the hole when they put Mary back into the afterworld. Then some other ghosts escaped from it.
Yeah, and that's what Drews says. So the last thing we see Drews is we see her, and she's claiming that, and it's like, oh my god. And then of course we see all the other ghosts appearing, and then of course we see the big Udo Kier being reborn, I guess. Is the best way to describe it. All because they left the hole open too long because of what the Ministry of Science comes and kind of distracts everyone. Now it's hilarious into that last image of Udo Kier's heads coming out of Judas's vagina.
Yeah.
Is
And he's
very
just screaming.
just screaming. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, yeah.
damn.
Yeah. Udo Kier is only appears in the last episode. You seen him in pictures in the other episode, but he only appears on screen in the last episode, and he's billed in all four of them. But there's a very large flashback sequence during the fourth episode, which kind of explains a lot of that backstory, and it's kind of a fairly huge exposition dump, which it's not handled in the best way, I don't think, but it works. But like the first time I watched it, I was all in on it. But just thinking about that's one of the few times that's an exposition dump that they just didn't like. The Drew's characters often investigating stuff. In
Yeah.
each episode, you see her investigating, talking to different people in the hospital. But in this, they do it in the easiest way possible. As she talks to two ghosts, and they pretty much tell her the whole story
Mhm.
all at one time, instead of her discovering it in a different type of way. But I don't know.
No, I to be honest with you, I think that's more or less a budgetary thing and I think for time, since that fourth episode's the longest one out of all of them, I think
Yeah,
that's what that really is. I mean,
yeah,
they
but
they set up so many clues in those first three episodes that by the time they got to this fourth one, it's just it's yeah, you're right. It's like an information dump for all this exposition explaining Udo Kier's character and the relationship between him and Mary and everything else. And I no, I agree with you on that.
yeah, yeah. And it's like one of those two where you like Udo Kier is like he's in there. You like want to see more of him earlier on. You get to see a lot more of him in part two, but you want to see more of him because he is Udo Kier. You know who he is, but it's like you get to see him only a little bit in the fourth episode. And it's very maybe a good 5 minutes total or something like that. But
Yeah, I think it's about yeah, I think it's about right.
maybe less than that. But you don't get to see too much of him. But he's also kind of a villainous character that's never explained too good. But
I kind of got the impression that his character, however he died, he is using this whole the kingdom and this gate opening as a means to get back to being resurrected. uh,
yeah, he yeah they do like they don't do that. Yes, so what you would expect, but he actually plays different characters in the other parts. Because he's in all three parts, but he seems like he plays different characters each time.
and you have to keep in mind how so him and Mary have probably been the ghosts who have been there the longest because he was there at least 11 weeks prior to
Yeah, yeah,
getting pregnant, and Mary has been around for a while, um, as well as the ambulance, the radio, the ghost radios from the ambulance. So most of, I mean, we don't get another ghost really until till the dog dies, and then we get a dog ghost, which is also hilarious. They have a dog ghost running around the hospital.
what's weird though about the dog ghost? I guess that he died. Like, there's the dog that they snuck into the hospital, but then there's a dog in the flashback too that dies too. Like in Mary's flashback, it's her dog. Like
Oh,
the
right.
is one of the guys from the carriage kills the dog, but we never see the dog from from the present day again after his owner finds him laying on the ground. But I didn't. I guess he did die, but it never really tells you more about it after that. It could be that I'm not sure which dog the ghost is. I don't know if it's her dog or maybe the dog is reincarnated again. I don't know.
You know, that's a good question, but now that I think about it, it might make more sense that it's Mary's dog because the dog follows her into the wall.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, it is her dog because it shows her in the flashback. But I don't know what happened to the other dog though,
Yeah,
which could have been the same dog though. I don't
I
know.
kept thinking it was that to be honest with you, I kept thinking it wasn't Mary's dog, it was the dog that died. That was probably that we see, I think, once in the very first episode alive roaming the
Right.
security thing.
Well,
Um,
but maybe they're the same dog. Kind of like Udo Kier's character came to life and got Judith pregnant. Maybe the dog is the same dog. Maybe it is her dog, just a ghost. Like maybe they're able to become like corporeal briefly. It, for some reason. It was
all
is
right.
that's actually it though. Now that I'm thinking about it, because the
Think
same thing. Yeah, because the dog's dead on the ground. Who killed it? It's whipped, that it's got a whip mark across the dog, just like the way that the dog's killed in the
Yeah.
it's 1919 is the flashback.
You're right. I didn't think about that till now. You're right.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, because I that would make more sense why Hook at one point sees a transparent Judith instead of seeing her all the way through. Remember that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's him thinking that she's a ghost.
Right.
Uh,
Because
he's
they got the ghost baby in her stomach, I guess turns her
trans.
transparent. It's
We don't get a reason why, but it
yeah.
spooks Hook the fuck out.
Yeah. It makes for a good end to the third episode and like being like, what is going on with this?
Well, it also makes him a believer too. I mean,
Yeah.
he would never be with Drew's trying to get rid of the Mary Ghost if it hadn't been for that. And he trusts Drew's opinions, which is why he brings Judith to her to figure out what is going on. And of course, she's the one that figures out that it's more or less the baby that there's something wrong with the baby and not her. So yeah, I can see that.
So in the last episode, which is kind of bizarre on the last half, even though this Ministry of Health showing up makes the end of the episode, but Helmer goes to Haiti for the end of the episode, and he's not involved with like the last half of the episode really. But do you think that the episode? I guess it still goes forward okay without him because of other stuff going on, but it does maybe distract a little bit not having him in at the Kingdom Hospital during those scenes.
I think it was very odd to have one of the main characters go to another country for a second for the
Yeah,
second half of the episode. He doesn't return by the end of the
yeah, yeah.
um
Yeah, and the way it's like, yeah, and that's one of the cheats too that might make it be more than one day because he does go to, I don't know how long it takes to get there. He gets there during the course of the episode. They act like everything else happened in the morning, and he goes to Haiti. I know what happens next with the Haiti and the zombie potion. What do you think he's going to do with the potion?
I don't know because he says those words about Mosgard when I was expecting him to say something about Hook. Uh,
Right.
but I don't know because I now have to see the second part.
Yeah, it is interesting that he does say Mosgard because same thing because it seems like he's butting heads with Hook. Hook's his main enemy, but if you think about it, Mosgard is really his true enemy. They really because that is the guy over him, and that's the guy who's really caused everything to happen to him to happen. Because if he didn't have like someone as incompetent in charge over him, then maybe everything would be going better for him. So he definitely blames him, and he does like us watching it, we see it like someone else who's beneath him, Hook, being his true nemesis, but he considers his true nemesis the person who actually has power above him. Even though Hook is blackmailing him at this point, so it is odd that he says Mosgard there, but I think maybe he's intending to use it on Mosgard, but a little bit of a spoiler, that's not what happens. But but I'm pretty sure that was his intention that he really appropriately blames the right person for everything that's going wrong with him. Even though I think as a viewer you don't think that, but if you're thinking about it, like the Helmer character is a very intelligent person, like it's so you think he's not just mad at the person like the Hook character but he blames Hook's react the way Hook's acting, he blames that on Mosgard.
So I kind of wonder because of the way this ended, and there was 3 years in between this part and the second series, if all of this was kind of crafted on purpose the way it was for the second part. Um,
Well, the second part very naturally is a very natural fit for this, and at the end of the second part, you're gonna feel the same way you feel at the end of the fourth part. Because they do it again. They do the same shit again, where it's like you don't know what's gonna happen next. It's cliffhangers.
I was about to say cliffhanger.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, it's really awesome. Even if they ended with the way they ended here, this is such an awesome ending that like it. Yeah, other than the fact that Helmer's missing from the second half of the
yeah,
episode, but that is an odd thing. But I don't. But it does make you think about what the hell he's doing in Haiti, and there's no payoff for it within the episode itself. Really, I think to me that's one of the worst. It's one of the worst things that happens. That all that in the second part, it really messes up a lot of the second part. What comes of that, but
Well, yeah, because the normal show would have had the Haiti stuff in like a standalone episode, like where it would be a standalone episode of a regular show, and not like the second half
yeah,
of an episode that doesn't get resolved.
yeah.
Really, uh,
Well,
it is
but yeah. You know what's crazy about it though? There's 4 episodes here. It seems a lot longer. And I remember like just like now that episodes of shows like you may have like we're 8 to 20 episodes dealing with the same thing. But it definitely this did not work as good in the American version. And there's actually some interesting stuff that Stephen King added to it that was different. But it definitely like kind of conflicted with the stuff from this one when they try to put those two things together.
hmm.
And especially the second half of the American version, it got very Stephen King like. It got very like it got very supernatural and
Oh,
otherworldly.
which is expected. It is
Yeah,
Stephen. I guess
yeah.
I always saw Kingdom Hospital, which is the name of Stephen King's version, as like him just taking the basic structure and ideals from this version, this show, and just doing his own thing. Um, kind of like if you ever saw the original version of Homeland, and then of course the Americanized version of Homeland.
I've
Um,
only seen the American one. I didn't realize it was a previous one. But
yeah.
it's Claire Danes is really good in that.
Uh, yeah.
Mandy Patinkin.
Uh, and that's the thing is, a lot of those shows don't ever make their way over to our shores, the original versions. We get the Americanized remake of a lot of these things, um, and they take a lot of liberties because for two reasons, I think. One is American ideology is different than other cultures, and so this one feels like a Danish show, whereas Kingdom Hospital feels more like an American show. Um, and then the other thing is we have bigger budgets here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because when I was watching Kingdom Hospital, which I watched it recently after I watched some of it when it was on air, but and some of the stuff is really good in that show, but
Mhm.
it just some of it doesn't it just doesn't work right for some reason. I don't like the way they handled Helmer in that show either. So something about the way I almost feel like this in this one that like even though the director and it is a Danish show and Helmer's a Swedish character, I kind of felt like they were on his side when you're watching it for the most part. They kind of make him um they kind of make him go through some hilarious stuff, but I feel like it was very judgmental against that character in Stephen King's version because
Oh yeah.
he is a shitty character, but they don't judge him in Lars von Trier's uh, version of it.
No, and they don't. And his character is one of the characters that goes through so much change within the 4 episodes. By the fourth episode, like I said, everything that happens to him is almost happenstance. Uh, uh, Drews and her son drive their car into his car, his prized possession. He ends up giving his hubcaps to the kids that he's been dreading the entire time. Even when his trunk doesn't close, he's like, whatever. His whole philosophy by the end has completely changed to the fact that he says, I'm going to leave my girlfriend to go to Haiti to search for a zombie powder and forget all my real responsibilities at the hospital where I'm supposed to be doing a tour for the Ministry of Health. Like that's stuff that you wouldn't think that this character would have done in the very first episode.
But
You
yeah.
get a sense that he has changed and gone through some weird shit in the course of those 4 episodes. Uh,
Well, yeah, you kind of feel that, but I don't think he really did though. I think he's still like hit when he goes to Haiti to get the zombie formula. That was like him seeing a way because he's seeing he's basically at the beginning of the fourth episode, he's like, I'm done for. This is it. And once he hears that um zombie thing, he sees that as a way to get his shit back. He's like, this is how I get my power back. I go get the zombie medicine or zombie potion. I feed it to Mosgard. He's a complete vegetable. I'm in charge.
I, it's just the way you use Mosgar is a complete vegetable. I'm in charge. Uh,
Yeah.
and you know what? Because we don't have a resolution to him going to Haiti, he goes to Haiti, gets the stuff, and then declares that he's going to do something to Mosgar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's open ended.
But that's definitely his intention, though. I mean, yeah, it does seem like he changed. That you really get that feeling that he changed. But once he goes there, gets the potion, holds it up, and says that like holds it up and says Mosgard. At that point, you realize that he really hadn't changed. He just came up with a different plan on how to get his power back.
I get a sense that he has given up
Yeah,
at the beginning. Like, okay, they've defeated me, they've got me. It's no like I thought that he was going to give Mosgar his resignation. He was going to leave. Blah 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 blah. But this is a character who you would not think would ever give up on anything. He would use the system in his own way to get over on everybody. And now he's using supernatural elements, something he didn't acknowledge for like ever. Like
yeah, yeah,
he dismissed. And yet in this episode, he starts believing in the power of voodoo and zombies, and he's someone who would not have given the time
yeah.
of day to anything spiritual whatsoever.
And so
Uh,
I mean, yeah, he almost. I think it's almost like he had a mental break though,
yeah,
because like for him to
like right.
yes, so for him to suddenly believe in supernatural stuff because he didn't believe he's never, I don't think he's ever witnessed anything. You know what he did though?
No, when I rewatched it,
Yeah,
I realized that when he's trapped in the archives, he doesn't
yeah,
see the ghosts in there.
yeah. They're
Ghosts see
there, but
him,
he doesn't see them.
so he doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't think he ever sees a single ghost in that entire hospital. Uh,
yeah. So
maybe
that's the only time he was kind of close to it. I mean, I guess in theory it was probably too dark for him to see it inside the archive room, but they were around him at that point.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so it kind of begs to differ with the nature of the ghosts. Not everyone can see them. Some people are more attuned to them, whereas others aren't. I don't get the sense that Drew's uh son ever sees the ghost until they're all trapping the ghost Mary in the wall, you know.
Yeah, you're
He
right.
goes along with his mother the entire time until they're chasing after the ambulance. Literally, when they're chasing after the ambulance, is the first time where I think he acknowledges, because he thinks his mother's a little bit off. You know, he doesn't
Yeah, yeah,
he doesn't want her to come to the hospital anymore. Very first episode, he can't believe his mother's back in the hospital again. You know, but he feels obligated because he's mother's boy to do whatever his mother says. That's what he
yeah.
does. So.
Yeah, I think that I really like that Boulder character though, her
Oh,
son. I
right.
like that. Yeah, yeah, his name's Boulder. I really like that character though. That's just that he's a big dude, and I like the way that he kind of handles everything, like kind of like hell, I guess we're doing this, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
But he's helping though. But he's I really like that character. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
You
I,
know.
I I like a lot of the characters in
Yeah,
this show. The characters all seem unique. Um,
yeah,
Even Bondo, the one Bondo would almost not seem unique until he's on the operating table transplanting the bad liver into
yeah,
him. You know, they're all very unique characters, which is what makes them so fascinating to keep watching over the course of the 5 hours of this first part. Um, at least that's what I think.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. I think the characters is what drives this more than anything else, and that in the style and the just absurdist humor with in the show.
absurdist humor. Yeah. So just so you know, because you haven't seen many of his films, the director's films,
Yeah,
he has a very sense of absurdist humor in most of his films, and you'll get used to that if you watch more of them.
yeah. No,
um,
yeah. I mean, this type of shit. I mean, it's like some. It's almost like it's just almost like subtle, like kind of almost British comedy, but different though. I mean, it had me cracking up though. I mean, there's definitely some parts of this I was just laughing out loud. It was just so. so subtle, but just it's just like essentially when it deals so strongly with the characters and what problems they bring upon themselves, then just kind of things come to a head all of a sudden. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, well, which is why you should definitely watch some of his more comedic films.
Yeah,
You should definitely watch the Five Obstructions. If you've never seen that one,
yeah.
that was just
I
a
hadn't
quick.
seen it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, even if you've seen Dogville, which is literally an entire movie done on a set that doesn't exist, I mean,
yeah.
just the concepts that he has as a filmmaker are far out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, the Dogville gets very dark as it gets into it. It's like
Yeah.
the last like 30 minutes. It's just holy shit.
Yeah.
What?
You have to watch the sequel too with that. Handle it. If you've seen Dogville, you should. Even though they changed the main actress to Bryce Dallas Howard, who replaces
Nicole Kidman. Yeah.
Kidman.
Yeah.
She's not Nicole Kidman. I
Yeah.
I can give her. Don't get me wrong. I'm fine with Bryce Dallas Howard, but she's no Nicole Kidman.
Well,
Um,
you can't just change the main actress like that. It doesn't usually work.
it
It
is
didn't work in Silence of the Lambs. Julia Moore's great, but she's not Jodie Foster. I mean, it's
right.
yeah, but it's not that she's worse than Jodie Foster. She's just not Jodie Foster, you know? It's and it's like very like it's very jarring, especially when you have even I saw something else. Yeah, even in say Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, when you go into Part 4, you replace
Oh,
Patricia Arquette with another actress. That both actresses do a good job, but they're not the same.
not the
They're
same.
not play. Yeah, they're not the same. It doesn't feel like the same character.
Oh, jeez. Well, I'm glad to hear that the same, and for the most part, the cast returns for part two for this. It'll be
Yeah.
real
Well,
interesting to discuss part two.
yeah, Part 2. Well, they shot it really close to the same time period as this, so yeah, everybody pretty much comes back. I don't think anybody doesn't come back. Yeah, of course, in Part 3 is a completely different story, but they four or five of the actors, maybe six of them, come back for the 2002, including the Mona character of the girl that had the brain operation, which is a pretty good resolution for that in the third part.
Yeah, and we didn't mention most a lot about the Mona stuff, but it's good to know that they continue with that aspect of the story. But
Yeah.
uh, I do want to ask about any other thing that we have not touched upon, because when we touch
Well,
upon part
yeah.
two and part three, we don't want to have to go back and backtrack stuff that we read the first part.
Well, we may have to reference it, maybe, but I don't have anything too crazy. We may think of something else later. I will say there's that one scene with Mona like sitting there by herself, just like it just cuts to her randomly during the end of one of the episodes, and she's sitting by herself, and then the Mary ghost is just sitting beside her, just hanging out with her. That's a pretty cool part.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and the fact that there is a sequence where Mosgard is walking through the halls and show. I think it's showing Helmer the artwork from some of the patients
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We
And then
see
Mona, yeah,
Mona's picture, which is
yeah,
all red, which is very visually stunning. But then we see the cut too of the Mona's room, and the red paint is all over the entire room, and her mother is hysterical. Um,
yeah.
something like that beautiful artwork comes from that chaos and that crisis, which is and there's a lot of those type of contrasts
Yeah.
in this
I
film.
did that does leave a lot of questions. That opens a lot of questions for me. Is like you see Mona's picture. Is that scene a flashback when it's when he comes back to the room, or did they still the room's still a mess, or did she paint the picture and later on get the paint and paint all over the room?
Oh, it's interesting. I saw that as she was giving an opportunity to paint a picture, and then that's what she did. She completely painted the entire room, and then when her mother walked in, it's a total disaster area. I think it's more for us, the
Yeah,
audience.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I never thought of it before, but I was just thinking about it like logistically or linearly. If you're watching the movie, he sees a picture hanging up. It's a very effective actually part when it cuts to her in the room holding the paintbrush and the whole room is completely
Yeah,
like covered and stuff. It's like Sam Neill's character in The Mouth of Madness when the whole thing from one black crayon's got crosses all over the place and all over him too. But but it's like that sort of thing. But it's like it just kind of makes you question about about the timing of it. But of course, it is just it's something you don't want to. They don't really want you to think about that. But I
Mm.
don't know. But it's a cool little part though when that
Yeah,
happens.
and there's a lot of those little things that happen throughout this series, this first part, anyways. We'll delve deep into part two and part three later on. But I we've mentioned several of Lars von Trier's other movies, and this is the director. This is one of his earlier films, or before he started really getting into some of the more obscure stories, some more abstract stories, and some of the stuff that he would become known for later on. Like the whole Dogma 95 movement happened while this was being done, or a little bit after this. I think it was a little bit after it.
Well, 95 is like 95. Like this
Yeah,
is 94. So
this
I
is
mean,
95. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
couldn't remember the
yeah.
year, even though we
Well,
missed the year. So
yeah,
by 95, they were releasing their first films in that movement, but they were probably coming up with the rules, the actual rules,
yeah,
while this was hitting the airwaves, obviously. So
yeah.
like
And you
we
can see,
said,
but you can see that. You can see
yeah,
it in this. A
yeah,
lot of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and if you, I'm not going to mention some of the other Dogma 95 films. I've seen a lot of them over the years. If you are that interested, please look them up. The Dogma 95. They went through a whole series where they're all numbered in order of release. Lots of directors attempted them. Some failed. Take them as you are. It was not a movement that would have lasted long. It was an experiment that yielded some really creative films. Be that as it may. I don't know if Dave's seen any of them. I saw
I
most.
haven't. I haven't.
Yeah, I saw almost all of the original ones, and then they kept going. Random filmmakers started coming in saying they were doing Dogma 95 films, and I didn't watch a lot of those other ones. But that being said, Lars von Trier went off to do not only the Dogville and Mandalay films, and of course the Five Obstructions, in which he said he does the same story five different ways. I thought it was fucking brilliant and funny at the same time. Antichrist, and of course his the house that Jack built, one of his more recent
Oh yeah.
films, are more into our whole wheelhouse. But like we said, I think David Cronenberg and David Lynch are the closest that we're going to get to directors that kind of implement his weird and crazy storytelling and styles. So
Oh, that was one other thing about David Lynch and Twin Peaks in this, because the same thing. David Lynch did the return of Twin Peaks in 2017, and this was very similar to Twin Peaks. And the new version of this from 2022 reminds me a lot of the return of Twin Peaks as well. But I meant to mention that earlier, but I did see some parallels between this series and Twin Peaks.
hmm, interesting, interesting. Um, Yeah, we'll have to. I don't. We haven't discussed how we're gonna attempt any talk about Twin Peaks on the program.
Well, I guess Firewalk with Me is technically supposed to be partial a horror movie, so you could probably get
Yes.
that one in there.
Well, yeah, that's on our list
Yeah, yeah,
as well as Eraserhead,
yeah. But
Velvet. These
yeah,
are movies that we don't normally typically associate with horror, but they do have those type of aspects in it. Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive,
yeah.
these, Cronenberg's on our list too, as everyone knows. David Lynch, and then of course Lars von Trier are on our list because of the types of films they do, and they're not like mainstream your typical horror, but they do have horror aspects in them, and we love to discuss stuff like that. Dave, are there any other things we can discuss about this part of our the Kingdom trilogy?
Well, I guess we should move on and we'll get them next time if we missed them this time.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Dave, for talking with me about Lars von Trier's The Kingdom Part 1. What we love to do for everyone listening to the program is at the end of our discussion, we love to go through and rate the movie. One being very poor, five being amazing. And with the way we do it, we kind of pick something out of the show or movie that we like to kind of signify what our ratings are. Dave, how would you rate this film, and what would you pick out of the movie to rate it with?
So I'm going to pick an Operation Morning Air sticker, and I'm going to give it four Operation Morning Air stickers.
All right. I'm gonna That's a good one, actually. I'm gonna do it the obvious one, which is really stupid now that I'm about to say this, but I'm gonna give it 4.5 severed heads. Uh, I should have came up with something
Yeah.
more
The
interesting.
Severhead's pretty good though. Yeah, yeah. It's just,
I think I may have used severed heads for something else though. That's why
yeah, yeah. But
it seems
Severed Heads that look a lot like the character that's using it.
yeah, severed heads seems to be a mainstay for horror films. I think I've used severed heads before.
Well,
And
that severed head ends up back out in the hallway at the end too, because he throws it into the hole, into the wall hole, but then it ends up in the hallway, rolling down the hallway when that other guy sees the trolley car. So it's
yeah,
yeah,
he picks up the head.
the head's not done yet, so it's good. He'll be back.
And that is a precursor to what you will find us talking about when we eventually get around to talking about the Kingdom Part 2. I want to thank you all for joining us for this amazing episode of Conversations in Horror, in which we delve deep into part 1 of the Kingdom trilogy. Please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, share so you never miss an episode, especially considering that we will be hitting on part 2 and Exodus later on in the year. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, Broken Lighthouse Pictures, and Conversations in Horror, please make sure to check out our other podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which delves deep into all the stuff that is Hammer Studios. If you're a classic horror film lover, you're going to love that podcast. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.